We farm Park House in Torpenhow. We're an organic dairy farm. And it's been in my wife Jen's family for the last 2 generations. So we're the 3rd generation to farm the land. When we moved back to the farm 8 years ago, we diversified and set up a wedding business. And that's called Three Hills Barn. And then late on last year, we set up a cheese company called the Torpenhow Cheese Company to process some of our own organic milk into cheese to sell locally as organic cheese in the local area. 3 years ago, we decided that we'd move from conventional farming to become an organic farm. We had a lot more interest in farming without chemicals. Being paid organically generally is a higher price, but in Cumbria it's quite hard to get organic milk contracts. I don't know why, but it's a struggle to get organic milk contracts. So what we decided to do was convert to be organic anyway, and then try to get added value on the milk that we think is worth a lot more because of its provenance, because of its organic nature, and make a product that we can sell locally. So that was the real driver behind it, was to try and produce something which actually had been produced for the last 100 years on the farm, up until about the sort of 60s. It was quite difficult to process the first couple of days to try and work out how it's going to affect all 3 of our businesses. As farmers, we were designated as key workers, and in terms of running the farm day to day, life went on pretty much as normal. The second business, the weddings, was pretty destructive in terms of the business coming in, and for the wedding couples themselves, it was quite a hard time for them to process what was going on. Pretty much overnight, the weddings had to stop, and that's impacted throughout this year. So I think we had 38 weddings booked for this year, and we had to focus on working hard to satisfy the couples, accessing dates next year or the year after. And that's pretty much what we've been doing for the last 6 months, is making sure that wedding couples can have the weddings they want, hopefully just 12 months further down the line. The company had just started, so we'd made cheese before Christmas, and that was ready to sell just as the pandemic was starting, and there was no outlets to sell the cheese. So with the local village WhatsApp groups and the Facebook groups and everything else that was set up, that community spirit was probably one of the positives that came out of it for us. We sent some messages out, and the local villages responded, and yes, they wanted local handmade cheese delivered to the doorstep. So that's what got us going initially. And then the butcher shops reopened, and we started selling to the butcher shops. I mean, the pandemic allowed us to focus more on the cheese than we probably would have done if we'd had 38 weddings. So we actually made a ton of cheese when lockdown happened, which has been a benefit to the cheese company, and taken our minds off the devastation it's wrought on the wedding company. I think there's possibly more appreciation for your local environment. You have to stay where you live, and you have to look after where you live. And if you're stuck in a place for 4 months and you can't really leave, I think there's an understanding of what is on your doorstep. Another positive thing about the lockdown, I think, is people started buying locally. The local village shops started getting more trade, and I think people really connected to and start to appreciate where their food was coming from. When food's restricted, food becomes more important on people's list of things to obtain, and then people start thinking a bit more about where their food comes from. And that's massive for us, because we're a local food producer. And people that buy the cheese who live around here can actually walk along the road and see the cows grazing in the field and have a direct connection to what they're eating. And I think that side of food production and people's attitude to it has been positive up until now. We hope it stays that way as we move out of this.